Now look, I know clotheslines aren't the most sexiest things going around. And there's ours. How embarrassing. Slack, absolutely, I'm hopeless. Got to get onto it. Do you like it? I'll sell it to you. But they are a necessity, and as was evident from that last shot, in the last 18 months since we've moved into this house, I am yet to install a clothesline. A bit naughty, but that's not the purpose of today's video. Today's video, I'd like to show you how to install a recycled timber screen to go behind the clothesline to 1, support the clothesline, and 2, to make that whole area look a little bit sexier. Alrighty, g'day folks, my name's Uncle Knackers and you're watching DIY for Knuckleheads. Let's do this. Okay, the first job is to install 3 metal galvanised posts. 1, 2 and 3. The 2 outside posts, they're there to attach our fold down clothesline to, and the one in the centre here, that's there to help support the weight of that recycled timber screen. Good stuff. Now this is the recycled material that we'll be using for our screen. It's old hardwood and I'm really excited to be using it because these old boards here are actually the old floorboards that I managed to salvage when we demolished our bungalow in the backyard a couple of years ago. So it's going to be really nice to be recycling it. I've given all the boards a good sand and also cut them up into a couple of different widths just to add a bit of interest. And to hang these boards, I've got some treated pine here, which we'll make a frame out of, and then bolt that frame to those 3 steel posts in the backyard. Alright, let's stop mucking around and build that frame. Now just a quick tip, before we nail this frame together, it's always a good idea, especially on outdoor jobs, that you give the cut ends a bit of a hit with a timber treatment or a timber preservative. That way you'll get much longer life out of your timber. It's a good idea. Too easy. Now, like I said before, we're using treated pine for the frame. Now the bottom plate and the top plate, I'm using 70mm by 35mm, which is 3 inch by 1.5 inch. And for the studs, I'm using 70mm by 45mm, which is 3 inches by 2 inches. Don't you just love a good nail gun? It makes it so much easier. Okay, that's good. The frame's now built. Now all we have to do is to pick it up and then bolt it to those 3 metal galvanised posts. Once it's up there, then I'll run a row of noggins through the centre of the frame. Let's do it. Because I'm doing this job myself, it's a bit difficult to get that big timber frame and bolt it up against these steel posts, especially when the frame is up and off the ground. So to make it easier, all I've done is I've levelled a line across the bottom of those 3 posts where I want the bottom of the frame to sit, and then just cut some supports that line up with that level line and go down to the concrete footing just there. And then all I need to do is to get the frame, place it on top of those supports, which takes all the weight, and that makes it easy for me to manoeuvre that frame around, getting it in the right spot so I can bolt it in place. Good tip. Okay, let's get this frame up. We put it on those supports and, oh, hang on a second, fell off. Back on the support like that and then clamp it in place. Too easy, what'd I tell you? Okay, the bottom of that frame is now in the right spot. So all I need to do is to drill a hole through the frame, through the steel post and bolt the whole thing together. Once the bottom row is done, then I'll plumb up that frame and do the same to the top. So first of all, I'll just countersink in a hole here and then drill a hole through the timber and the steel. Okay, now all we have to do is to tap that bolt in and then do up the nut and we're done. Once you finish that, do the rest of that run, plumb the frame and then bolt the top off. Beautiful. Okay, I just need to get this frame plumb and then I'll bolt the top. Spot on. Okay, so all we need to do now is put that bolt in and do it up. And don't drop the spanner over the fence. Whoop, that was close. Done. Okay, the frame's up and it's looking really good and we're on track. And the next job we need to do is to install these noggins through the center of that framework. And the purpose for the noggin is to stiffen the frame to stop those studs from twisting around. Once these are in, then I'm going to paint the whole thing black. Yep, black, with this exterior grade self-priming paint. And the reason for the paint is twofold. First of all, I want to protect that framework to make it last a bit longer, and I'm painting it black because between the slats I want to see a black strip. So hopefully it's going to turn out okay. Let's give it a go. Now whenever you find yourself installing noggins, it's always good to stagger them. That way it makes it so much easier to get a nail directly into the end of that noggin. Now onto that black paint. I always paint my outdoor timber structures, whether it be with a paint or an oil or a varnish, and I think it's a really good idea because it helps preserve that timber. A lot of people can't be bothered, but I highly recommend it. And that is the painting all done, and it looks really good and the timber's well protected. Now all we need to do is to let that dry and then come back and start installing those recycled hardwood timber slats. Too easy. Now what I'm doing here is I'm adding a picture frame to the outside of the screen, and the reason for that is that the picture frame just gives a bit of depth, so it just makes that screen a bit more interesting. I like it. Okay, so there you have it. The screen has now had a picture frame put right around all four sides, and before we start to install these slats, I just want to give the inside of the picture frame where these slats are going to sit a good couple of coats with a good quality clear satin varnish. And the reason for that is that I want to protect this timber for as long as possible. And once these slats go on, I'm not going to be able to apply that varnish right on the inside edge there. So now's a great time before the slats are installed to get that job done. Beauty. Now don't be shy with the varnish either. The more you can get in there, the better protection you're going to have. So slop it in there. Alright, it's about time, but we can now finally start installing these slats. And when I do, I always make sure that around the edges I always leave the width of a 3-inch nail. And that way, no water pools up between those two surfaces, which will prolong the life of that structure. Initially, when installing the slat to the frame, all I'm using is a single nail from my nail gun. And the reason for that is that I'm going to come back later and screw that slat to the frame, and I don't want the face of that board covered in nails because that may get in the way of those screws. Also, when you start, make sure you use a string line. You want that first board to go on beautiful and straight. That way all subsequent boards should follow suit and you'll finish up with a beautiful job. Now, it's always a good thing to remember that whenever you're doing a screen or a deck, that you stagger all of your joins, because you don't want all the joints to finish up on the one stud or the one joist. Also, sanding before installation is always a bit of a time saver, and also using a clamp is a great way of getting your spacing correct. Now, what I have in my hand now is just a template which I'm using to space and mark out all of my screws. Makes it so much easier, and the screws all finish up in the same spot. And this little tool is a countersinking tool, and when the yellow thing stops spinning, the countersinking depth has been reached. It's absolutely fantastic. I love it. And because this is an outside job, I'm using stainless steel screws. They last longer and they look really good. Now, this is a good tip. When you're 4 or 5 boards away from finishing, take a measurement on either end. That way you can adjust your spacings so that when the last board goes on, it's the same width from end to end. And don't forget from time to time to use your string line to keep those boards nice and straight. You little beauty, last one. Now, I have to say that this job has taken me a bit longer than I expected. Working with the old floorboards is always a little bit tricky, and with close to 500 screws that need to be pre-drilled, countersunk and driven, your day's gone before you know it. You little ripper. We are now all done. Now all we need to do is to give that a bit of a sand, wash it down with some water, let that dry, apply a couple of coats of that clear satin varnish, and Bob's your uncle. Once that's all done, then I'll hang the clothesline. Love it. I tell you what, this job has really been a good workout for my new Makita sander. And once the sanding's been done, I just got out the hose and gave it a good wash down to get rid of all that dust. And then it was on with that first coat of the clear satin varnish, mixed in with 10 to 15% of terps, because this is the sealer coat. Okay, it's 24 hours later. The wall outside's dry. I've given it a quick sand with a 240 grit paper, and now all we need to do is to apply the second and final coat of this clear satin varnish, and once that's dry, then it's just install the clothesline and we're done. Too easy. Those old floorboards really sucked up that first coat. You can hardly tell that it's even been done. But the second coat, that's really making the colours pop. Beautiful. And that's it. The painting, all done. Now time for the clothesline. Righto, time for the clothesline. Instructions? Don't need them. Alright, what do we got here? Step 1. Push through the female Chicago bolt bracket long, positioning 2 arm spaces between outer and inner arms, securing with male's Chicago bolt bracket short. Okay. Alright, with those instructions being as clear as mud, let's have a stab at putting this thing together. First thing we need to do is drill the holes for our mounting brackets and then bolt the mounting brackets on, followed by the retractable arms and then the front cross member which holds the whole thing together. And to finish the job, we just need to tie off and thread through 25 metres worth of clothesline cord. And I tell you what, I must have been getting pretty close to knock-off time because I haven't worked this fast in quite some time. So that's it folks, all done. The clothesline works really well and the wall looks absolutely fantastic. It took a while to build, but I think the end result was well worth it. Looks good. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed and found that video useful. And as per usual, a big thumbs up is always greatly appreciated. And if this is your first time to my channel, please hit that subscribe button for more handy tips. Alrighty, I think I need to get my first load of washing up on that line. But first of all, I really need a cup of tea. So till next time, I'm out of here. Cheers.